Okay, welcome to tonight's Zoom chat. We'll get started. If you have questions, I put a little thing in the chat. So if I'm talking or if someone else is talking, we only have till 8:40 tonight. So just raise your hand in the chat and I'll see that you wanted to ask a question, or you can type your question there. So just to let me know. Tonight, let's see, we had some questions come in through email today. I guess because there is a vice presidential debate going on, which I didn't quite know that that was going to happen. Some people are watching that. Okay, so let's see. The first question that I have is, any suggestions of what kind of healthy and good snack for puppies to chew on? Preferably dried, not fresh or raw at the moment because they'll bring it into their bed to chew it. Okay, so I'm guessing you don't want the messy raw stuff in the bed. So I'm guessing you're thinking not like a raw, I'm guessing if someone says no raw for bringing it in the bed, they're thinking like a raw bone that would actually have the raw meat in there, which that's a real, this would be a really good option if you were outside. It does get a little messy on the carpet, but it gives your pets one. I don't think I have one right now in the freezer, or I pull it out, but I'll use these in the summer and put them outside on the deck with the dogs, and they have the bone marrow in them and they're raw. So it takes them a while to kind of lick it and get through it. So other ideas, I always like the deer antlers because I was just looking for ours and I think they're hidden under a couch somewhere because I don't see them. But the deer antlers are a good natural chewing solution, and just make sure you get the appropriate size for your dog. So if you have a small puppy, you want to get something that's appropriate for them to be able to carry around and chew on. If you have a large dog, you don't want something too small that's actually going to get lodged in their throat or in their esophagus if they're chewing it. If it gets to be too small, no matter what size dog, once it gets to be tiny and it looks like something they could easily swallow, take it away from them, and that's time to put a new one out. The deer antlers are a little bit pricey, but they're worth it because they do last for a while. So I would say something like that if you want them just to chew on something and have something to chew. Things that I don't recommend are things that are like rope toys that start to get frayed at the end, or you can try a rope toy and see if they chew it without fraying it. If they chew this, it is nice because it acts as kind of like a toothbrush too, so they can kind of get some tartar off while they're chewing this. Once it starts getting like this and they start getting little pieces off it, either cut the pieces down and keep an eye on it or get rid of the toy, because you don't want them chewing you don't want them chewing these pieces. So if they swallow them, sometimes these can get stuck between their teeth also, but you just don't want them swallowing thread and getting that into their GI system, because if the thread is long enough and if there's a lot of it, it can get stuck in there and cause a GI blockage. So for toys like this, just be careful and watch. This can be a nice toy though, because it's a tug toy. If you have two dogs, sometimes they can tug back and forth on it and they can play with it, or your dog can have one end and you can play with them with this. So these are nice to have. You just have to monitor where the toy is in its life. These little dental toys are nice too. Again, you have some frayed edges. You can see they've been chewing on it, but it also has this kind of bumpy, and it's a rubber. It's kind of not hard rubber, but it has a little bit of give to it. So it's kind of nice because they can get their jaw muscles working on it to press. They get a little bit of tartar and dental action here with the little knobby things. And it has the toy pulling action on it too. So you could use something like this. And then just so those would be my top recommendations for a puppy chewing. The other things you can do is, if you do use a raw marrow bone and they wind up eating all the marrow out of it, you can save these and you can stuff it with, the next question was related to that. I want to give them the Kong toy, which I think I have one right here. Hold on. Where'd it go? Oh. Okay, here we go. My dogs are staring at me like something good is coming. So I want to give them the Kong toys. Any suggestion of what kind of peanut butter or any kind of similar thing that I could use to seal the cubed veggies and fruits inside the Kong? So these things are great. I do recommend them. And again, get the appropriate size. This would be a great puppy size because it's pretty tiny. They make all different sizes. And again, this has like a little bit of give to it. So it's a little bit soft. And there's a little place to stuff in there. So what you would do is either take this, or if you have an empty marrow bone, same kind of thing. You can chop up vegetables. I would really recommend fruit, things like blueberries. You could do some shredded carrots in here or cut up carrots, something that gives them a little bit of a treat when they get through it. And I would, peanut butter is a favorite because it's easy. It's in the fridge. You can just kind of stuff it in and put your things in it and stuff it and it holds it. Peanut butter itself is not the greatest food even for people. It causes allergies mostly because of the mold in the way that it's stored. So it's not necessarily the peanut butter. So if you make your own fresh peanut butter or you get your own fresh peanut butter, there was a store around here that you could go in and put your container in and it would make the peanuts right there. So that might be a good solution. Maybe a very natural organic peanut butter, but just be careful because it can cause some allergy or stomach upset because of the peanuts. And again, it's not something I would give my dog a lot of. So what I'd rather do is either take some kind of, maybe like a yogurt, cream cheese, something like that. You don't need a lot either. You don't need to stuff the whole thing. You can just kind of, if you put a lot of the fruits and vegetables in with that mixture, stuff it in, and then you can actually freeze this and make it last a little longer, because if you freeze it, it's going to be frozen. It's going to take them a little bit longer to lick and for it to defrost and to get through. So things like blueberries, what else would I put in here? Frozen peas, chopped up green beans, pieces of apple. Just don't put grapes in. I think we all know that grapes can be toxic to dogs. So anything like that, I think that's a great idea to use that. Another note on, let's see, on the bones. So I'm getting a little bit of a glare, but as you can see, there are different size marrow bones that are cut to different sizes. So you've got a few different ones here. And you have some bigger ones, some different size holes. This is a really important point that I can't stress enough, is that you have to match these bones to your dog. So if you have, this one to me is looking really kind of dangerous. This would be very easy to fit, if you can picture a dog's bottom jaw, fitting through this as they're chewing, it gets stuck. And then what happens is the two canine teeth get stuck in here, and all of a sudden you have a bone stuck on your dog's bottom jaw. And I can't tell you how many times you would see this in the emergency room. And dogs would come in and they would just have the bone around it, they'd be salivating, it's not hurting them, but it's uncomfortable and it's stuck on there. So in the old days, before we learned a trick, we would have to sedate the dogs, cut through this with a bone cutter and break it open to get it off. But as the years went on, we would think they got it on there somehow. How are they getting it on? We should be able to get it off the same way they get it on. And if this ever happens to your dog, after seeing this, it shouldn't happen, but if this ever happens to your dog, then once it's on there, let's pretend like my jaw is coming out here. If you press up here, there's a hollow in your dog's, and you can feel it on yourself too. If you feel right here, there's a hollow, and you can kind of press in that hollow and it brings the jaw down. It kind of, it doesn't bend it, but it makes it so that you can actually work the jaw out. So you kind of are pushing this up and it brings this down and kind of narrows the jaw, and you're able to pull this off. So there is a way to do it, but if your dog is getting really frantic and stressed out because it has this on, just be careful that they don't bite you. But you are able to get it off, so you might prevent a trip to the emergency room. Something like this probably would not get stuck because it has the small hole here that they can lick. They have this here, but what I am worried about with this bone is, if I can get that a good angle on that, let's see, is that this has been chewed. These pieces came off and they're kind of ragged. I don't know if you can see it in that angle. Let's see. I don't know where that light's coming from. But you can see there's a little ragged edge on there, and they're starting to chew away at the thinner sides of the bone. So this bone should go in the garbage or the recycling or wherever you bury your bones. I would get rid of this one. It's kind of done. This one I'm going to get rid of because it's looks like a danger to me. If I left them with this for too long, then they're going to get it stuck. And then this one, actually, this looks okay. I don't really see that my dogs would get their nose or their jaw stuck in here. It has a nice hole. It hasn't really gotten too worn away. I won't let them chew on this for that long because I don't want their teeth to break from chewing this hard bone. But I could stuff this and put it in the freezer, and they could use this as a natural con toy. The other thing with bones, hard bones like this, is that if you have a really aggressive chewer, they could wind up breaking their canine over time or wearing their teeth down, which could cause dental problems in the future. So you want to be careful how hard they're chewing. And that's why I feel like the elk or the antlers, the deer antlers are a really good choice because they don't have this hard thing. They're a little bit softer. They're actually made of hair, which all of these are, but they're made of, this isn't made of hair, but the deer antlers are made of hair. And it's like a calcified hair or something, but it's not as rough on their teeth. So that's why that's a good choice. So that was a good question that we had. Let's see, we have another question. Let's see. Oh, we had another question about dog anxiety. We have someone whose pet is getting very anxious right now, within the past week or so, just very agitated and pacing around and seems just very high energy this week. And its GI seems a little off. So this is the season for that. This is the fall season. And if you've been following me for a while or getting my newsletters, as I transition into more natural health from the more Western medicine, this season is, hold on one second. This season is called Vata season, V-A-T-A, in Ayurvedic medicine, and in Chinese medicine, it's a season for upheaval. Really, it's kind of a slowing down from summer. So you're going from heat of summer into some windy, sometimes damp, sometimes cold, but the wind is what's really, I'm gonna guess that that's what's getting your pet agitated right now. And if you stop and think about it, there's a lot of upheaval now, I think, in the world. I think the world is feeling it. There's a lot going on in not only politics, but just in the environment is feeling it, with the fires and droughts and everything. So I think we're all feeling a little bit on edge. Also, Mercury retrograde, which sounds a little cuckoo, but it is something that we would see when I was working with people. When this time of year came up, Mercury retrograde is an astrological time. It happens 3 times a year. And you'd see people like start to maybe fight or argue or get agitated or not communicate properly. Computers would have problems. They say it's not a good time to travel. It's just a really like strange energetic time. And it can be difficult if you're not prepared for it. But if you're prepared for it, it's actually a good time to sit back and just take a minute and exhale. And if you have a project that you started already that's well on its way to being complete, it's a really good time to complete things that have been started. But don't start anything new. Try not to travel. If your computer's acting up or your phone's acting up, just take a breath and step away from it, because there's something in the air that actually is causing it. Okay, does anyone have a question before I keep going? I don't know if Lynn had her hand raised. Let's see. Well, if you do have a question, just let me know. You can just all, pop in. As far as the thing with the kookiness, like the Mercury retrograde and the wind and everything, we've gotten a little bit away from, well, a lot away from the environment. And when you think about, if you think about it scientifically, we all come from elements. So the earth and the air that we live on came, it was built with carbon molecules and oxygen molecules and nitrogen and all of these molecules. If you know the periodic table, those are the things that the earth and our bodies are made of. So we're all made from the same stuff in different proportions. And that's why we're people. And that's why this is a Kong toy. That's why these are bones. But it's all the building blocks are there. And we're all made of the same building blocks in different, arranged in different ways. And that's why our pets' bodies and our bodies react to seasonal changes and to things in the environment, and to, there's, each element has a different electromagnetic pull to it. So there is an energy going on. So when you think about all these things, it makes sense that we're reacting to all of these things in the world, because it's biological. One thing that I was gonna maybe make my next video on is the sympathetic, the parasympathetic, and the vagal system. So the vagal system is part of our nervous system. And there's a theory called the polyvagal theory. And what it is polyvagal. So vagal is nervous and poly is several. And there's basically two nerve systems that come from our brainstem and from our pet's brainstem. And one is the frontal, and one is the dorsal in the back. So the dorsal one, and our pets, if you picture our pets, the nerve would run down the back, and it goes basically to the stomach area. And then the frontal one basically goes down to the heart area and up to the facial area. So you have these two nervous systems, these two nervous system pathways going on. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because in a dog that's kind of nervous, if there's a lot going on in the environment, if that system kind of gets disrupted, it can go to their GI tract. So that nervous system biologically goes to the GI tract. And that's why nervous animals, anxiety, things like that, you can feel it in your stomach. When you have butterflies in your stomach, that's right where your diaphragm is usually. And there is a huge bundle of nerves there. And for our pets, that's where their stomach is also. So sometimes even like massaging that area when your pet has a GI issue, or if they seem very anxious, can help, and soothing their stomach. An anxious pets I usually find have a lot of GI problems, especially cats. They already tend to have GI problems because of the way that they eat. But if they are very stressed on top of having not a great cat diet, they usually have a lot of GI problems. So that's the dorsal vagal system. The frontal vagal system goes more to the heart. So that's the emotions. So it's an emotional system right there also. So going to the heart, it's also our circulatory system. So it's very important that our heart is working properly, but that it's emotionally balanced, because it's part of the biology. So if your pet is in a situation where they feel uncomfortable, or something has changed, or they're feeding on your emotions because you're in a emotional upheaval, it's going to go through their nervous system, it's going to go to their brain, and it's going to trigger something, and it's going to make them react in a certain way. It's interesting too for people with the vagal system, the frontal system, it goes to the heart, but it also comes up through the face. And there's some of those sayings that if you are not in a good mood, if you smile, just fake it, even if you don't feel like smiling, and you're not in a good mood and you try to smile, it feels totally fake. But you're stimulating that nervous system in a way that is going to send a feedback to your brain. And whether you mean it or not, it doesn't matter. Those nerves are reacting in that way, and it will eventually change your how you're feeling. So that's kind of interesting. The other thing I find fascinating is facial reading, that in Chinese medicine, for people, they can do facial reading where if you have a certain line somewhere, or certain, the way that you hold your cheeks, or how you hold your mouth, or how your eyebrows are sitting, people can actually read and diagnose medical problems with seeing what's on your face. And that is because of the nervous system. So how does that apply to pets? Because we don't really see, sometimes I can tell when an animal's smiling, or you can just see it in their expression when they're, it just seems upbeat. You kind of get an idea. But when a pet is grimacing and their mouth is tight, Sometimes with some pets, you can see their brow is furrowed and you can see they're either anxious or angry, or mostly it's where the hair is sticking up, but you can get some facial expressions from pets, not the same as humans because our brains are a little bit different. But if you have an anxious pet, even just kind of massaging the jaw area, the jawline, that can be very relaxing to the nervous system if they allow you to touch their face. Some animals, they just don't like you touching their face. It's kind of threatening to them. But if your pet is very relaxed and they let you do that, just where the jaw meets, where the hinge is, that can be, if right now I can feel mine is really, really tight. So I'm gonna have to work on that. But that can be really relaxing. So go gentle because it might be a little bit tender on your pet. But if you start really gentle and then you can kind of really massage it, and if they're enjoying it, that can be so relaxing, and you can stimulate a yawning effect. And then if they start yawning, you know that they've relaxed. So there are things that you can do, like for people, if you want someone, if you need to calm down, you could take a breath and then just exhale. And exhaling that carbon dioxide is just very relaxing. Well, how do you tell a pet to exhale so that they can feel better? It sounds silly, but there are ways in therapeutic animal massage, or when I do acupressure on pets, there are certain points that I can stimulate when I want to relax an animal, knowing that I want them to yawn and get that feedback and get that relaxation. So I think that might be a video coming up that I wanted to do a little bit more with. I think it's interesting. I don't know. Okay, so I think those are all the questions. Let me just double check. Did anyone have a question here? Okay. Let's see. I think that's all that I have. So if anyone else, if you have a question and you didn't get to ask it, just email me and I'll answer it. And I'm planning on doing another one of these in November. So I'm trying to do them monthly, the first Wednesday of the month. And hopefully that's working out for everyone. So thanks for your questions and thanks for keeping in touch. And I've been getting a lot of emails and texts throughout the week. And just keeping up to date with your pets. So I hope that was all helpful, and I will see you next week. Okay, thanks.